The sun was just coming up. The streets of Lagos were already waking up with the sound of car horns, shouting traders, and the smell of fried akara in the air. Zara clutched her brown folder tightly to her chest. Inside it were her certificates, a recommendation letter, and her only hope. Her black shoes were old, but she had polished them until they looked almost new. Her blouse was neat, and her skirt didn't match perfectly, but she didn't care. Today was important. If I get this job, she whispered to herself, Mama can rest, and I can stop selling bread on the roadside. She walked quickly, almost running, toward the tall glass building ahead, Eastgate & Sons Limited, one of the biggest companies in the city. Its windows sparkled in the sunlight like diamonds. To Zara, it looked like a castle. A new life waited inside. Suddenly, someone stepped into her path. Zara said, stopping quickly so she wouldn't bump into the person. An old woman stood before her, barefoot, with wrinkled skin and tired eyes. She wore a faded wrapper tied around her chest, and she was carrying a big plastic bucket of water on her head. The bucket looked too heavy for her thin neck. Please, my daughter, the old woman said, her voice shaking. Help me carry this water to my stall at the back of the building. My knees are not strong anymore. Zara froze. She looked at her wristwatch. 7:38 a.m. Her interview was at 8 o'clock. If she helped this woman, she could be late. If she was late, they might not even let her in. Her heart pounded in her chest. I'm really sorry, she said, but I'm late for an interview. It's very important. The old woman's eyes begged her. Just small help. It's not far. Zara bit her lip, torn between helping and walking away. But before she could answer, someone else came rushing down the street. A tall, confident young woman wearing red heels and a tight gray suit brushed past them both. Excuse me, the woman said, clearly annoyed. I don't have time for this. Why stand in the middle of the road like that? She looked the old woman up and down like she was dirt. Do you think this is a charity center? I have an interview too, and I didn't wake up early to carry buckets for strangers. She clicked her tongue, stepped around the old woman, and strutted off like the street belonged to her. Zara's eyes followed the woman. Her name was Amaka. Zara recognized her from the online applicant group chat. Amaka always posted selfies with expensive food and makeup. The old woman sighed, her bucket trembling slightly on her head. Zara looked at her again. I'll help you, Zara said suddenly, stepping forward. Where is the stall? The woman's face lit up with surprise. You will help me? May heaven bless you, my daughter. Zara smiled, even though her stomach twisted with fear about being late. She slowly took the bucket from the woman's head and placed it on hers. It was much heavier than she expected. Her legs wobbled. It's just behind the back wall, the woman said, pointing with her finger. Zara walked carefully, feeling the water slosh around. She took each step like it might be her last. But cold water poured down her shoulder, soaking her blouse and skirt. She gasped from the shock, but didn't stop. When she finally reached the small kiosk, she lowered the bucket and let out a deep breath. Thank you, the old woman said, smiling softly. People don't help much anymore. May your kindness find you when you least expect it. Zara's blouse clung to her skin, and her shoes squished as she walked back toward the company gates. The guards stared at her. So did the other candidates seated inside the reception. Some were in suits. Some held sleek folders. One had an iPad. And there was Amaka, seated like a queen, sipping from a bottle of juice. When she saw Zara, her eyes widened. Oh my God, she said loudly. Did someone fall into a gutter? A few people laughed. One guy even covered his nose and pretended to faint. Zara sat quietly in the corner, her wet clothes sticky, her cheeks burning, but her head held high. Minutes passed. Then the door opened. A man in a suit walked in, followed by another older man with gray hair and glasses. Everyone stood. The HR manager looked around. His eyes fell on Zara. He frowned. "Oh," he said. "Why are you wet? Did something happen?" The room grew silent. Zara stood up slowly. "Yes, sir," she said. There was an old woman carrying a heavy bucket. She needed help. I helped her. There was a pause. You helped someone, before your own interview? Zara nodded. Yes, sir. The older man turned to the HR manager. They whispered something. Then the HR manager nodded. All right, everyone, please follow me. The group followed the two men to a hallway with chairs lined along the wall. One by one, names were called for interviews. Zara sat quietly at the end, her hands holding her folder tightly, her wet blouse making her shiver. But in her heart, something felt steady. Like maybe she hadn't made a mistake. Maybe, just maybe, helping someone had a bigger purpose. Zara sat quietly at the end of the hallway, her hands wrapped tightly around her folder. Her blouse was still wet, and the cold air from the air conditioner made her arms shake. She wished she had brought a scarf. The other applicants looked so comfortable, laughing, talking, even bragging. One young man with shiny brown shoes leaned back in his chair. His name tag read Tund Owolabi. He tossed a biscuit into his mouth and said loudly, I finished my MBA in the UK. Oxford. I only came back to Nigeria because my mum begged me. The girl beside him giggled. So you're basically a global citizen. Tund winked. You can say that again. Zara looked down at her folder. Inside were just 3 documents, her WEC, a bachelor's degree in sociology from a local university, and her NYSC certificate. Nothing more. She remembered how Mama had sold her last wrapper to buy those interview shoes. They weren't even her size, but she squeezed her feet in because she didn't want to complain. On the seat across from her, Amaka crossed her legs, flipping through her glossy resume. Her phone buzzed and she smiled at a message. Then, loud enough for everyone to hear, she said, My cousin just sent me dollars from Canada. He said, Good luck on your interview. If they don't pick you, come and work with me. The others nodded, impressed. Zara turned her face away. Her eyes stung, but she didn't let the tears fall. She remembered her father's voice soft and deep like an old song, Zara, one day your character will speak louder than your certificates. Suddenly, the door to the interview room opened. The HR manager stepped out and called, Tund Owolabi. Tund stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked in like he already owned the building. Zara sat still, her heart thumping louder with every passing second. Inside the interview room, Tund smiled confidently as he sat across from the panel of 3, the HR manager, a woman with red glasses, and the quiet director with gray hair. They asked questions about leadership, teamwork, and company goals. Tund spoke with style. I believe in proactive engagement and cross-functional synergy, he said. I once helped a tech firm in Silicon Valley increase their ROI by 45%. The panel nodded. Very well, Mr. Owolabi. Please wait outside. Tund walked out, grinning. He passed the cleaner in the hallway, a tired old woman mopping the floor with a crooked back. As he stepped around her mop, she slipped and fell with a loud thud. She groaned, grabbing her hip. Tund looked around. No one seemed to be watching. He frowned and moved closer. You okay? He asked without emotion. The woman winced. Please help me up. Tund sighed, pulled her arm, and lifted her halfway. Her dirty hand brushed his white shirt. Ah, he snapped. Look at this shirt. You've ruined it. I'm sorry. Do you know how much this costs? He dropped her arm and stormed off. From behind the corner, a small security camera blinked red. Amaka was called in next. She walked into the room with a soft laugh and a faint smell of expensive perfume. Good morning, sirs and ma'am, she said sweetly. She sat down like a queen and spoke with practiced charm. I believe a company is like a family, she said. And I'm great at keeping a family together. The woman in red glasses smiled. You seem very confident. Amaka giggled. Confidence is my middle name. They asked her a few more questions. Her answers were neat, stylish, and safe. Then came the last question. Can you tell us a time when you showed kindness without expecting anything in return? Amaka blinked. I helped my cousin with her wedding planning once, she said slowly. But she still gave me a gift. Does that count? The director's face gave nothing away. He just wrote something down. You may go. As she walked out, she passed the same old cleaner who was now trying to mop quietly in a corner. The smell of disinfectant filled the air. Amaka's nose wrinkled. God, she muttered loudly. This company needs better cleaners. This one smells like palm oil soup. The cleaner didn't say a word. She just kept mopping. Zara was the last to be called. She stood slowly, heart pounding. Her shoes made small squeaks on the tiled floor as she walked in. She greeted the panel with respect and handed over her file. The HR manager scanned it. The red glasses woman raised an eyebrow. This is all. Zara nodded. That's all I have for now. No foreign training? No, ma. No MBA? No, sir. Just a heart ready to learn. The panel fell quiet. Then the HR manager asked, "Why should we hire you?" Zara took a breath. "I don't have big degrees, but I do have honesty. I work hard. I treat people with respect, no matter their title. I believe in helping, not just getting." The director leaned forward. "If we placed you in a team where someone talks down to you, what would you do?" "I'd speak kindly but stand my ground. I think people should be corrected in love." The room was quiet again. "Thank you, Miss Zara," the director said finally. "That will be all." She nodded, stood, and walked back out into the hallway. As she passed the cleaner, she saw the woman leaning against the wall, looking tired. "Mama, are you okay?" Zara asked softly. The cleaner nodded. "Just old bones." Zara smiled and reached into her bag. She still had a meat pie left from earlier. She unwrapped it and gave it to the woman. "Please eat something," she said gently. "You've been working all day." The woman stared at her, eyes wide with surprise. "Thank you." Zara patted her shoulder, then walked back to the waiting room. She didn't know it yet, but something big was already happening. And someone important had just noticed her. It was quiet in the hallway now. The interviews were over. The HR manager stepped out and said, "We'll now begin the second part of the test. This is not a regular interview task, but it's part of how we select future leaders in this company." Everyone sat up straighter. Zara looked confused. The manager called the first name. Tund Owalabi. Tund stood with a proud smile and followed the HR manager into a small room beside the main office. Inside, the director was waiting with a pile of old documents and some brown envelopes stacked neatly on a desk. The director pointed to the shredder in the corner. "These are old records we no longer need," he said calmly. "Please shred them. But first, open each envelope and check its contents carefully before destroying anything. Let me know when you're done." Tund blinked. "That's it?" The director gave a small nod. "That's it." Tund shrugged and got to work. He opened the first few envelopes, just paper. Then he opened one that was heavier. Inside was money. Crisp, brand new. 10 $100 bills. $1,000. Tund froze. His heart jumped. He looked around. No camera in sight. No one else in the room. He grinned. "This has to be a mistake," he muttered. "Maybe they forgot this money here. Or maybe..." He held the envelope tightly, thinking, "Should I say something? Maybe not. If they don't ask, then it's not stealing, right?" He stuffed the money into his pocket. He finished shredding the rest of the papers, straightened his jacket, and returned to the office. The director didn't even look up. "Did you find anything important?" he asked. Tund smiled smoothly. "Just some old letters. Nothing else." "Very well. You may go." Tund left, already thinking of how he would spend the money. Next was Amaka. She walked in with her usual sway and confident smile. The director handed her the same pile and gave her the same instructions. She raised an eyebrow. "You want me to shred these? Personally?" "Yes," the director said without smiling. Amaka rolled her eyes and walked over to the desk. She began opening the envelopes one by one. When she found the envelope full of cash, her jaw dropped. "Jesus," she whispered. "Is this real?" She touched the bills. Smelled them. Flipped through them. They looked real. She held the envelope against her chest and chuckled. "God is good," she whispered. "This must be a blessing. After all, I deserve it." She tucked the money into her purse and finished the task quickly. When she returned to the main office, the director asked the same question. "Did you find anything important?" She smiled, adjusting her collar. "Nothing at all, sir." He nodded. You may leave. Then it was Zara's turn. She stepped into the room slowly. Her stomach felt like it was full of dancing butterflies. The director didn't smile or greet her. He just handed her the stack. Please open and shred each envelope. Carefully check before destroying anything. Let me know when you're done. Zara nodded politely and got to work. The first few envelopes were boring. Just papers, receipts, memos, old letters. Then, she found the envelope. It was thick, heavy. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside, 10 shiny $100 bills. Zara gasped. She looked around. No camera. No sound. Just silence. She sat down on the edge of the chair and stared at the money. This could pay our house rent, she whispered. Mama could go to the clinic. I could buy shoes that actually fit. She wiped her face. Her chest rose and fell. Tears filled her eyes. Nobody would know. But then softly, gently she remembered her papa's voice. Zara, do the right thing, even if no one is clapping. She stood up slowly, folded the envelope shut, and walked back to the office. She held it out to the director. Sir, I found this inside one of the envelopes. I thought you should know. The director took it without changing his expression. Thank you, Miss Zara. You may wait outside. Zara returned to her seat, not sure whether she had just passed or failed something. She closed her eyes and whispered, God, please, if I did the right thing, let it count. The hallway was now quiet again. Everyone had finished. Soon, a staff member came to collect all 3 of them. Please come with me, he said. They were led into a large conference room. A round table stood in the center. Cold air hummed from above. A giant flat-screen TV faced the room. Tund, Amaka, and Zara sat down. A few minutes later, the HR manager walked in with the director beside him. The director's face was serious. He spoke clearly, his voice slow and steady. Thank you for coming back today. This was not just an interview. It was also a test. He pointed to the screen. Please watch. The screen came to life. A video played. Zara blinked. It was the shredding room. The angle was clear. A small hidden camera had recorded everything. First, it showed Tund finding the envelope and slipping the money into his pocket. Then lying. Then it showed Amaka opening her envelope, smiling, and hiding the money in her purse. Finally, it showed Zara, wide-eyed and trembling, choosing to return the envelope to the director without keeping a single note. Silence filled the room. Tund sat frozen. Amaka's face turned red. Zara's heart pounded like a drum. The director stood. The money was fake. But the test was real. We don't hire only by degrees or confidence. We hire by character. And now, the door opened. An elegant woman entered the room. Her steps were graceful. Her dress was royal blue. Her glasses sparkled like diamonds. Zara gasped. It was her. The old woman with the water bucket. The cleaner. But now, she looked like a queen. The woman smiled warmly. Hello, my dear, she said to Zara. No one here knows me as Mama Grace. My name is Mrs. Grace Aranini. I am the CEO and founder of Eastgate & Sons. A stunned silence dropped over the room like a heavy curtain. Zara's lips parted in shock. Her mind spun in circles. Mama Grace, was this how? The woman who begged her for help, the one who carried water, the cleaner with the tired eyes, was now standing tall, in a royal blue dress, gold-rimmed glasses, and heels that clicked like music across the tiled floor. No mop. No sweat. No wrapper. Just power, elegance, and something even deeper, truth. Amaka's mouth was wide open. Tund sat back in his chair, his expensive wristwatch suddenly not so shiny anymore. Mrs. Grace Aranini smiled kindly, but there was steel in her voice as she spoke. Every year, I watch from the shadows, she said. I wear the uniforms. I carry fake loads. I mop the floors. Because I want to see with my own eyes how people treat others when they think no one important is watching. She looked around the room. Some think kindness is only for bosses. Some think poor people deserve to be ignored. And some, her eyes fell on Zara, still choose to help even when it costs them something. Zara felt tears rising. She quickly blinked them away. Mrs. Grace turned to the panel. This young lady, she said, pointing at Zara, chose to help an old woman with water even when she had an interview. She chose to share her food with a cleaner. She gave respect when others gave insults. She returned what she could have kept. And she did it all without knowing anyone was watching. The room was completely still. Tund cleared his throat. Ma, please. I made a mistake. I didn't know it was a test. Mrs. Grace nodded slowly. That's the problem. You only did the right thing when it felt like a test. Not because it was right. He looked down, ashamed. Amaka tried to speak. Ma, with all due respect, this doesn't feel fair. I have a first-class degree. I've worked in real companies. I was ready to grow this brand. The director spoke then, his voice calm. We don't just want smart people, Miss Amaka. We want good people. People who treat others with dignity, whether it's a CEO or a cleaner. Mrs. Grace raised her hand gently. I built this company from scratch, she said. When my husband died, I had nothing. I cleaned schools. I sold oranges. And yet, I kept my heart clean. That's why I test for character. Because no business survives without it. She turned to Zara. Zara Onyeka, she said, her voice soft but full of power. You are not just hired. Zara blinked, not sure she heard right. You will be trained for a leadership position, Mrs. Grace said. Higher than what you applied for. And you will be mentored by me, personally. Gasps filled the room. Zara's lips trembled. Ma, I don't even have transport fare for next week. The entire room chuckled lightly. Mrs. Grace smiled. Then your first salary will come early. And that's not all. She opened her bag and brought out a small brown envelope. This contains keys, she said, to a new apartment in Ikoi Gardens. Fully paid for 1 year. You'll also receive a car. And your mother, who sold her wrappers to buy you shoes, she will get a full healthcare plan from our company. Zara couldn't hold the tears any longer. They spilled down her cheeks like rain on dusty ground. She knelt down, weeping. Thank you, Ma. Thank you. God bless you. May heaven remember you. Mrs. Grace bent down and pulled her gently up. It is heaven that sent you, my dear. You reminded me why this company was started in the first place. Tun stood, now ashamed. Ma, I'm sorry. I truly am. Mrs. Grace nodded again. I believe in second chances. But they don't come with leadership positions. Learn from this. Grow. He nodded, slowly sitting back down. Amaka didn't speak. Her head was lowered. The proud smile was gone. The HR manager spoke. This meeting is over. Thank you for your time. As they stood to leave, Zara stood by the door and looked back. She didn't feel small anymore. She didn't feel poor. She felt seen. 1 month later, a silver car pulled up outside a small house in Mushin. A woman with kind eyes and a scarf on her head stepped outside, holding a basket of oranges. It was Mama Onyeka. The car door opened. A woman stepped out in a navy blue skirt suit, her hair neatly done, her smile soft. Mama, Zara said. Mama dropped the basket and screamed. Zara, my child. They hugged each other tightly. Inside the house, there was dancing, laughter, and even crying. I told you, Mama said, holding Zara's face. I told you God would not forget a heart that helps others. That evening, Zara walked into her new apartment in Ikoi. The floor tiles were white like milk. The curtains smelled like lavender. The air conditioner hummed softly. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. She remembered the mop, the water bucket, the mockery, the envelope, the voice of her papa saying, do good, even when no one sees you. She smiled. 6 months later, Mrs. Grace sat in her big office, watching the sun set behind the city skyline. On her table was her will. She picked up a pen and made a note at the bottom. To Zara Onyeka, the girl with the pure heart, I leave a share of my company and my name, because legacy is not built on money. It is built on kindness. She smiled, because she knew. She had found the right person to carry the name forward.
What did this story teach you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another powerful tale. Thank you for watching. Stay kind, stay true, and keep believing in the magic of stories.